Everyone, welcome to the last board game breakfast for March. Tomorrow is April. Well, a lot of things to get going to here. Of course, I'd like to mention, of course, as always, if you'd like to hear just the audio of this show, you can always go to dicetoweraudio.com, and we put the audio of our board game breakfast and other select videos there. You'll notice that I didn't get out as many videos last week as I wanted to. We did a lot of the stuff from GTS, but one of the main reasons was, one of the goals of our Kickstarter was so we can get new and better equipment. And a brand new computer came in this past week, and so that slowed everything down, transferring stuff from one computer to the other. And also, I'm trying to learn a new program to help with the video editing and just get more in the ball with that. That's all boring stuff. Let's get to the interesting stuff while you're here, of course. Let's start with the news. Before we get to the news, we'd like to give a shout out to one of our Kickstarter backers. It's a game that's on Kickstarter right now called Robots on the Line. I did a preview of this a while ago. Robots on the Line is a family-style game in which pieces for robots are coming down an assembly line. You have to take those, build specific robots, and sell those robots to different people who are buying them. So you have the fun of building your own robot and at the same time using strategy to find the best-selling robots to different people so you can get the most money possible. Again, that game is called Robots on the Line. So, on to the news. David Trampier, most people don't know who he was. He was an artist for TSR back in the old days, designed some of the most iconic covers that you may have remembered seeing from Dungeons & Dragons, the first edition. He's also the artist for Wormy Comic. Well, he just died on March 24th. Now, this was a kind of an interesting thing because what happened was he had a break with TSR. He really got upset with TSR, became a taxi driver. And it's kind of sketchy, you know, he kind of broke from gaming for good. He designed a game Titan, and it seems like he didn't even know much about the reprint of Titan, which a board game which came out several years ago from Valley Games. And so he was actually going to make a comeback, come to a convention in a few weeks and sell off some of his old artwork. So anyway, that's David Trampier, passed away last week. Fantasy Flight Games announced an expansion for Blood Bowl Team Manager Foul Play. This introduces 3 more teams. You can now play with the Nurgle, with the Chaos Dwarfs. I didn't even know there was such a thing. And the Goblins. It also adds stadiums that you can play in and penalties. So that sounds like a lot of fun. The original game is fun. I still have it on my shelf. Stoneblade announces its next expansion for Ascension, although this is also, again, as many of their expansions, a standalone game, Ascension Realms. This can have dual heroes and stuff, and things that are part of 2 different of the types, the different factions that are found in Ascension. St. Petersburg is going to be reprinted. It's on a German Kickstarter type site, and it's going to have new cards and add a 5th player. I didn't even know this was existing until they emailed me, the people making this, and they said that I was in the running. There was some contest going on, apparently, to put different people on the cards. So I don't know if it'll be in the game or not. Not that big of a deal. But St. Petersburg, it's good to see this one reprinted. If you've not played it before, you should try it. And the new artwork looks really well done. Eggerspiel is a new game coming out called Camel Up. Okay, I don't know, the art on the cover looks good, but it has a cube pyramid. A cube pyramid. Sounds like the name of a new Dice Tower show. And stacking camels. AEG announced Planes, which is humorous considering they've already done trains. Planes. Unfortunately, Mayfair has already automobiles. But if I had these 3 games, I would put them together on the shelf just because. Anyway, this is about getting through a crowded airport, if possible, by designer David Short. Z-Man Game is publishing My First Carcassonne. This is a retitled Kids of Carcassonne, which is a great game, especially for younger kids. The Kids of Carcassonne, now it's called My First Carcassonne. Definitely one you guys should look into. And we're getting close to the Fairy Tale reprint, which will have this special card in it, the Egg of Chaos, which is kind of a bummer, which means now we're going to have to go out our way to get this new set. Of course, the new set looks way better than the old one. NSKN has announced Praetor, which is about Roman engineers building a city. So that game will be coming out soon. Arcane Wonders will have purple and white markers in case you weren't happy with the blue and red ones or the yellow and green ones that you could buy later on. Now they have purple and white. Or you can play a 6-player match. Not sure that's happening. Of course, I want my purple and white pieces. Also, Forged in Fire is coming out soon with an alternate Warlock and an alternate Warlord. And North Star has produced a game called Happy Birthday, which seems remarkably similar to a game they did before called Crappy Birthday. Crappy Birthday, you're trying to give people bad gifts. Happy Birthday is basically the same game, except now you're trying to give nice and pleasant gifts, and will probably have a wider audience based on the name. This coming Saturday is Tabletop Day, which Will Wheaton declared that it would be Tabletop Day, and so everyone all over the world is playing games. It looks like there's close to 2,000 official events that are scheduled everywhere. I'll be at one of them in the Cool Stuff location in Hollywood, Florida. So if you're in that area, please come by. I'll be teaching games, running a Marvel Dice Masters tournament, a pitch card tournament, and more. We hope to see you there. I think there's 14 hours of gaming straight. That's a lot. Anyway, wherever you are, I'm sure there's an event near you, or at least you can start one. Quite a few games came out at Cool Stuff last week, and one of the biggest ones that a lot of people are talking about is Lewis and Clark. The last big name game from 2013 finally has been reprinted, so at this point you can pretty much get most of them, although I think Cavern is still out of print. And also Mythic Battles, the expansion Tribute, Lunacy, which is a speed game from Looney Labs. I hope to get a review of that up soon. A new expansion for Seasons, another expansion for Descent. Also a pile of Lieutenants came out. A game from Asmodee called Splendor, and Dungeon Raiders. Those all released, plus a whole bunch of other stuff came back in stock. You can find all this at Cool Stuff. Not a lot of stuff has been scheduled for next week, so in fact, really nothing that I have to talk about, so we'll have to wait and see. All right, let's see, where are we now? Oh, time for the Ivory Dice Tower.
Hi there, this is Scott Nicholson. Welcome to the Ivory Dice Tower, where I talk a little bit about games in academia, games out there in the real world, and trying to give you some tips and ideas of how you might want to use what you think about games to make a difference. So this time I'm going to talk about meaningful gamification. So, in my previous episodes, I talked about the idea of gamification, the idea of using elements from games and play to motivate people and to get them engaged in a context. But the problem is, as I also talked about back in episode 14, episode 15, episode 16, the issues of rewards. A lot of gamification today is really about taking rewards and adding them in. But it doesn't have to be, because there's a lot of stuff in games that aren't rewards. When we play games, we're playing them because we're getting things out of it. It's not just about that reward. And so I wanted to create something called meaningful gamification. Meaningful gamification is the idea of using elements from games and play that aren't reward focused, but the goal is to build meaning in someone about a real world context. The goal is to add a layer of something on top of something in the real world, and those elements of games and play are going to help someone to find a personal connection to that. It's different than reward-based gamification, where you're trying to incentivize people, where you're trying to motivate them through offering them incentives to say, hey, do this thing in the real world and you get this reward. Meaningful gamification is saying, hey, try this thing and here's some ways to think about it. Here's some ways to find a deeper connection. So over the next 7 episodes, I'm going to actually be talking about meaningful gamification, because I've been working on it quite a bit, and I've created what I call my recipe for meaningful gamification. There are 6 parts to my recipe. It's the letters of the word recipe. R for reflection, engagement, choice, information, play, and exposition. And the idea of this recipe is there are 6 things that you can think about using. If you want to take game elements and use them to help encourage people to engage in something, these are 6 ways you can do it that aren't just give them points and badges and achievements, but are something different, something deeper. And each one of these can be used to help someone find a deeper connection. And as I talk about these, I'm going to tie them into board game design, because there's a lot of tricks here you can use to help people get engaged in your game in ways other than just offering them points to do things. Because if you think about it as a game designer, many times that's what people rely upon. I'm going to get you to take an action because I'm offering you points to do it. But what if there are other ways? And that's what we're going to explore over the next few episodes. If you want to learn more about this right away, you can head over to becauseplaymatters.com. There's a publications area, and you're going to find 4 or 5 articles there where I've talked about this concept in depth. Bye-bye.
Today's question comes from Alex and is, how do you deal with a sore loser? Well, that's kind of a tough one, because when we're dealing with different people, there are people who can be sore losers. And sore losers can be sore losers in different ways. There's obviously the extreme, the so-called table flip, where you flip the table or you storm off in the middle of the game, leaving before the game's over. Then there's other examples where you just fall into such a foul mood that the other people at the table don't really want to have anything to do with you, because it's like, oh, I'm sorry, we're winning. You're not doing so well. To somebody who, when it's over, they're just irritable and grumpy, threatening other people in the game with repercussions outside the game. That could be really problematic with spouses and things. So how do you deal with someone like that? Well, when it's a child, there's a very different way to deal with a child. With a child, if it's someone in my own family, I have almost a zero tolerance a policy in my family for that. If you're losing a game, you don't have to like it. You don't have to sit there and smile and be like, oh, I'm losing, haha. But you will not display a bad attitude. You will accept it, because that is a good life lesson, to be able to lose, to give up gracefully. Of course, there's the flip side, of course, teaching people to win gracefully also. Dealing with adults is a bit more tricky and difficult, because when someone is a poor sport, a poor loser, how do you deal with that? Well, in the extreme cases, the people who do flip the tables or quit angrily in the middle of the game, or might as well quit, where they just say, whatever, I'm just going to do randomly for the rest of the game. Those people should be dealt with extremely. You say, listen, you do that, I can't play games with you anymore. Now, of course, that's easy to say. I guess if you have a big game group, if they're your only opponent, I still would seek other people to play with, because it is not worth your time to make the time to play with these people. Secondly, but when the people are less of a problem, let's say they're just really grouchy. They're the kind of person who you don't want to attack in a multiplayer attack game or hurt them, because they'll get really irritable, they'll snippy, and they don't ruin the game, but they bring it down a little bit sometimes. Those folks you need to talk to about it. You say, look, you were losing, and it was you kind of just ruined it for everybody else. Now, I would not ever play with them again, but I would talk to them again and try to help them see it, because they may not realize. Because sometimes you're like, I've met a lot of people in my life who think they have really good poker faces. I know one individual who they're like, oh, no one knows what I'm thinking. No, everybody knew what you were thinking, and it made everybody uncomfortable. And so you can explain it to them. Oh, you were really cranky. Oh, I thought I didn't show it. You did. And so I think the best way to handle people who are sore losers is to confront it. Because what can happen, and I've been guilty of this before, if someone is a sore loser, you tend up to kind of not throw the game, but not try as hard against them, and not say anything about it, and then you kind of, that person is ruining gaming for everybody else. So it is something that needs to be dealt with, especially if they're in your gaming group, and if they have a kind of a bad attitude when they lose, they need to be talked to. So that's what I would recommend, Alex. Okay, weird people in your gaming group. Well, I don't have a segment on that, but speaking of weird.
Hello chaps and chappets. Today I want to talk to you about a game called Ticket to Ride. It's the fun, easy to pick up and play family game, which is easy to pick up and play with your family. But you know what? I'm going to say it. There's something not quite right. What's not quite right, you say? This thing, the score track, all the way around the outside of the board. Here's the thing, whenever I'm playing, I spend half my time strategizing where I'm going to go, and the other half of the time recalculating everybody's scores, because these blinking things keep moving. Why do I have to keep recalculating scores? Because of wobbly tables. No, because some players don't care where they throw their cards, and then when they play their trains, they knock everything out the way. What game publishers should be doing is they should be making dual-layered boards with holes in the top and no holes in the bottom, so when you stick your token in, they go into the little indentations and don't move. In this day and age, calculators are cheap. Put a little calculator in the game with colours for each of the players, so you push your colour and enter your score, and it adds up as you go along. And I mean, in this day and age, everybody has an iPhone. Except me. So, why isn't there an app out there for scoreboards? You know, then it'll have a good reason to be on the table and not just texting someone. Or looking at strategy guides how to win the game that's in play. Or looking at cute pictures of kittens. Okay, I'm not just picking on Ticket to Ride. There are other culprits, like Dixie. And Carcassonne. So, come on, game publishers, come up with a new system of keeping scores on your games. It's getting really annoying.
So like I said, I didn't get many reviews and stuff up last week because of the new computer, but I do have more reviews coming up, some expansions for Smash Up and Sentinels of the Multiverse, Concept, Assassin's Creed Arena, Madeira. Oh, this game is really a cool looking game, Corto, and probably even some more games beyond the ones that you can see here. Also, we have a top 10 list that I will have almost finished editing, and you should probably see tomorrow, our top 10 obscure games. And we got plenty of reviews from the other reviewers at the Dice Tower coming your way, and lots of other stuff that you can find at DicetowerNetwork.com. Lots of podcasts. Our own podcast goes up every Tuesday. But if you missed it, last week we did another Board Game University and a Dice Tower Showdown. But there's lots of other great podcasts. Check them all out at DicetowerNetwork.com.
Hi, I'm Boris Krivicki, and today we'll have a look at these two little Belgian games, Rumba in the House and Rumba in the Dungeon. This game is as funny as it is simple, and believe me, the rules aren't complex at all. Each player will receive 2 secret characters. They will move and fight each other in this house, or dungeon, which is a modelable board made with a bunch of tiles. On their turn, a player either move any character in an adjacent room, this is only possible if the character is alone, or kill any character in the same room than another one. There is no fight rule, no die to roll, you simply choose who dies, and doing so with a little joke is always funnier. Rumble in the Dungeon adds this little treasure chest, which allows a character in the same room than another to run away. You can even leave the board if you manage to escape with the treasure. You reveal your identity when there's only one survivor left, which ends the round. After 3 rounds, the player with the most points is the winner. Very fun little games, especially when you act the characters while playing, but they're more or less the same, so pick the one with the design you like the most.
Hi, welcome to the Board Game Nights. I'm Jessica James.
And I'm Aos James.
And today we'll be doing an introduction to Eurogames.
Eurogames, aka German games or designer games, are a category of tabletop board games or card games which focus more on strategy, economics and optimization rather than luck, conflict and drama. Eurogames have indirect interaction between the players, usually competing for resources or player abilities instead of attacking your opponents.
They are usually multiplayer games for 2 to 6 players, but often work best for 3 to 5 players. They have simple, elegant rules with streamlined play, and often use iconography rather than text to give players less downtime, giving an average playtime of 1.5 hours while still giving depth of play.
They use incomplete or hidden information regarding other players' roles, scores, resources, upcoming events, or potential endgame scoring. This removes player elimination, builds intrigue, and keeps all players engaged till the very end.
Some great examples of Eurogames are Agricola, where you raise animals and grow crops, and then there's Settlers of Catan, which is known as being the catalyst for the modern board game industry. This is a game where players compete for scarce land resources, and it's one of the best ones to start with.
Hope you enjoyed our introduction to Eurogames and enjoy the rest of your board game breakfast. What's for dinner?
One-hit wonders are games that were on my top 100 list for 1 year or more, came off for some reason or another, and this is kind of my explanation why. Usually, almost always, it's not because the game is bad at all, because I have played so many games, 3,500 to 4,000 different games, so being in my top 100 is for the elite of the elitist. The game we're talking about today is called Earth Reborn. Earth Reborn was a game that when I first saw it, I was just mind-boggled. It looked so cool. I remember seeing it. It was either at a Gen Con or an Origins from Z-Man Games, and it was designed by Christopher Bollinger, who did one of my favorite games, Dungeon Twister, and it had miniatures in it. It had a futuristic apocalyptic setting. Apparently everyone was stuck in some kind of freezer zone for a long time, and then they came out and there was bad guys versus good guys. But it looks really cool, and it's basically a tactical, very light tactical game where you make different scenarios and fight the bad guys against the good guys. And it's fun, and it's interesting, and I liked it so much it made my top 100 list the first year it came out. As time went by, I cooled on it a bit. Not that I don't like it anymore, but a game like this with miniatures and scenarios, while the box was full to the brim of stuff, it didn't include a lot of stuff to go beyond the first scenarios that were in the box. And they never released any expansions for it. So you kind of stagnated. Also, the graphic design for this game, the boards and the models looked great. The graphic design and how the game actually played was a little wonky. And it came down to, it wasn't that complex of a game. There wasn't any systems in it that were like, wow, that's a really cool system. It was pretty basic. But it had the complex look, and so when I brought it out in a very big, giant box, people were like, oh, I don't know. And then it was 2 players, so it's hard to get 2-player games that take longer like this one did done. But I would say the thing that hurt it the most was the expansions. Is it my top 200 or 300 games? Oh, of course. I still like it quite a bit, but that's why it's no longer in my top 100. All right, last week, the Snakes and Lattes guys showed us their store. They showed us the first floor of the store, all the different games. And then they wanted to take us upstairs, and before they did, they cut it off. Okay, well, actually, I have them on the time limit, but still, they cut it off. Well, here's part 2.
And here we are up in the Snakes and Lattes archive. This is where we keep the rest of the collection. There are 3 main reasons why games get relegated up here. Number 1, they're duplicates, right? So our games wear out. We need new copies, so we keep spare parts up here. Number 2, they're just not suitable to the cafe. They're too big, they're too complicated, they take too long, or they involve throwing stuff. Cube Quest, for example, is a neat game, not good for the cafe because people are flicking dice all over the place. And then the final reason for a game to be up here in the archives instead of downstairs on the floor is it's just too weird or too stupid. There's stuff like Doctor Who's Game of Good Sex. Thanks, Victory Games. I don't think we're interested. Or Mattel's Uno Prestige. Prestige, really? With Uno? It's Crazy Eights. Then, of course, you've got the licensed stuff. If we take a look over here at the H section, we're going to see a lot of wasted cardboard. From Harry Potter to the Hunger Games, stuff that's just not worth playing, it comes and it lives up here. It's not worth getting rid of, for some reason, but it doesn't live on the floor.
Hello there, Dice Tower viewers. I'm Chaz Marler of the Pair of Dice Paradise podcast with the 3rd part of this inaccurately numbered 2-part series about building a gaming group. This time, I'll provide tips on finding locations for your group. Now, the obvious question is, why not just meet up at your house? Well, that's certainly a viable option. Well, that was easy. I'm done. What? I have like a minute and a half left of time? Oh. Okay. There's some potential space and privacy reasons why it might not be desirable to meet at your house, especially if it's a large or brand new group of people. So, other locations to consider include game stores, because some game stores have space set aside especially for gaming, and most of them are happy to let you play there. But just remember, buying your games from the store whose space you're using is often the difference between being a welcome visitor and just loitering. Now, depending on your group's membership, church and school meeting rooms may also be a viable location. As an added bonus, these locations can be prone to passers-by dropping in to check things out, which can lead to new players who likely have interests already similar to your current membership. Another location that I discovered many groups in my town meet at are local cafes and restaurants. Now, this opens up many potential locations for gaming all over town. Locations where you won't even need to leave in order to find something to eat. But on the downside, these locations can be noisier than average, and your game components may get covered in grease or syrup. But finally, my favorite, the hidden gem of the gaming locations, community centers. Places specifically for providing a place for members of the community to meet. Now, some are free, others are rented at an hourly rate. And typically, your town's city hall is a good place to get more information about community centers. Now, hopefully, this list includes some potential gaming venues that you may not have thought of yet. I'll see you next time.
You know, I was thinking, we just saw another segment about having your own game group, and then we also have Tabletop Day coming up. And I think it's important about evangelizing for board games. I mean, that was one of the reasons I started the Dice Tower to begin with, was to tell other people about board games. And I saw a comment recently where someone said, I don't want any more people to play board games. I don't want others to be, we have enough people playing board games. And they said, you know, why is Vasel trying to get more people to play board games? What's the point? And folks, I understand the comfort level of being a board game, and we live in a society where if you want to find other people to play board games with, you probably can. But that kind of thinking infuriates me on a personal level, because I think board games are great and I think lots of people should play them. Now, no, I don't say I think everybody should play them. That would be nice maybe in a perfect world, but there are some people who just aren't interested in board games, and I don't even try. It's not like other things, you know. If someone was running to the bridge and they're about to jump off, I might say stop, and I might really work hard to get them to stop. But if someone says I don't want to play board games, I don't want to play board games, I'm not going to go out of my way to change their mind. But for other people, I'm going to spread the word about board games, and I think that's really important. I think that the war gaming hobby currently is in a spiral of decline because the war gamers, as a general whole, and not all of them, I know I have good war gamer friends, you know, but the war gamers as a whole were such a haughty, egocentric, not trying to tell other people about games, that there's a whole generation out there right now that doesn't play war games. There are very few war gamers under the age of 30 at this point in time. Very few war gamers. When I was a kid, I wanted to play war games, but very few. They're playing other things or doing other things, and the war gamers are like, good, you know, we don't want these kids around anyway. Now, I know there's going to be lots of comments, I'm a war gamer and I want kids to play. Great. But as a general whole, and this is a lot of my own observation, the war gamers were irritable people and didn't want them around. I don't want board gaming as a whole to turn to that. I've seen wargaming turn in the past several years where wargamers are a lot of new blood coming war games, where they are trying to actively introduce people to these new games. And part of that is to not be so haughty about the games we play, where it's like, you're playing Axis and Allies. You know, that sort of nonsense chases people from the hobby. I want people to play games. I want Gen Con to be a mega convention that major news outlets cover, just like they cover Comic Con. I want Gen Con to be one of conventions all over the place, and famous people talking about playing board games all the time, because board gaming is fun, and I think there are major positive benefits to board gaming, and so I want to see lots of people playing board gaming, and I will never apologize for trying to get more people in the hobby. I don't think everyone needs to do it. I don't think everyone needs to be an evangelist. And this is why, although I do not always agree with Mr. Wheaton on everything he does, I think he is doing our hobby a great service, because he is also promoting the hobby. Tabletop Day, I laugh about it because I say people go out to play because Will Wheaton tells them to. Why can't you just go out to play any other time? I don't know why, but you know what? People do it. When I go to my Tabletop Gaming Day this coming Saturday, there is going to be crowds of people there, many of them who haven't been out gaming before. Here is my chance to show them games. Thank you, Will Wheaton, for making that possible. I appreciate that, and that is a wonderful thing. And so, yes, I know some of you like to have your groups of 4 or 5 people together. You don't want other people to join you. You don't really care if anyone else gets in the hobby. Well, bully for you. but I want my kids to at least see what the hobby's like. I want kids across the world to get into the hobby. And I get concerned sometimes when I see different people like, oh, we don't need these kids, we don't need this. Yes, they're the fresh blood, they're the new people into the hobby. This disdain towards mass market games. No, come on, that's how we get people in the hobby. Evangelizing the hobby. I'm going to keep doing it. I think it's a great thing to do. We're going to actually make a special set of videos this year for this exact purpose because I think it's that important. It's also fun.
Hi, Suzanne here with a look at this week's featured board game app. Game producers are getting quite clever in how they leverage technology to enhance the gameplay experience. Instead of a board game today, I'd like to take a look at 2 apps that are designed as digital player aids to enhance a physical copy of the game. If you play Space Cadets, Going Going Gone, or other great Stronghold games, check out their Timer app. It can completely replace the cardboard captain display in Space Cadets, not only creating a really cool-looking experience, but it steps you through each phase, one by one. It can also eliminate any counting wonkiness by your Going Going Gone auctioneer, and it allows that player to focus on their own cube tossing. The Stronghold Timer currently supports 5 different games, including the recently released Space Sheep. It also serves as a configurable basic timer for any game that needs one. Did I mention this great player aid is free? For Sentinels of the Multiverse fans, all those chits and tokens that track damage and buffs, no need for them if you have the Sentinels Sidekick app. You just need one device to track all the game's stats, but if others have the same app, you can link up and track things together. Sentinel's Sidekick has been updated to include all current heroes, villains, and environments, including the latest expansion and all promos, but the art for some of the most recent cards has to be purchased via a separate in-app purchase. Beyond tracking hit points, it also has the built-in ability to take notes and to track effects and actions with unique keyboard icons. The app is pretty thorough, and it really has too many features to mention here. Sentinel's Sidekick has gone on sale, but even at its full price, it's worth the investment for any Sentinels fan. Both of these player aid apps are available for iOS and Android, but please be aware that the features of both are not implemented fully on both platforms. But the companies behind them seem dedicated to updating and improving each of them. But even in their current state, I think these apps are a great way to enhance anyone's board gaming session. Give them a try.
Dungeon Roll, a dungeon crawl dice game for 1 to 4 players. You are an adventurer with a special ability wanting to go on a quest. The longer you are on that quest, the more experience you will gain. The player with the most experience after 3 rounds wins. You start a turn rolling all your party dice, then another player rolls the monster dice. The number of the dungeon die is the number of dice you roll. The party dice can be used to kill the monsters, for example. A green fighter is used to kill all green goblins, or 1 skeleton or 1 ooze. The grey clerics are best at killing the skeletons, and the blue mages are best at killing the oozes. The yellow champions can kill any number of 1 type of monster. Scrolls are used to re-roll dice. The thief and the champions are used to open up any number of chests. Reach into the chest to win all kinds of help. Any dragons are put into the treasure room. Once 3 dragons have appeared, the dragon awakes and must be killed by 3 different types of party dice. If you are unable to complete a level, you go home with no experience. After winning a level, you can decide to stop and take a number of experience points as a level you are at. We like this game a lot for its clear choices and push of luck qualities. Lots of hero cards and each game is different. Out of 5, we give this game a
5.
And that is it for this week, folks. I might have another special video for you guys this week, but I have to wait and see if I can get that recorded. We see. The musical episode from the Kickstarter is also being worked on, and there's a lot of other things that we're working on. We're getting. You just saw us do a lot of stuff from the Gamma Trade Show, GTS. I have another minor project that you'll see happen between now and June, but June is Origins, and so those of you going to Origins, we will be there, and we'll be doing a lot of cool stuff at Origins too. Anyway, until next time, my name is Tom Vasel. You've been watching The Dice Tower. Find out more information at dicetower.com. I'll see you later.
To find out more about all of our podcasts, check out dicetowernetwork.com. To see a listing of our videos, head to dicetower.com. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Cool Stuff Incorporated, where you can buy games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock.